The market for audio recorders and audio interfaces has really blown up in the last couple years, especially in the last year with everyone being home and wanting to make content at home. But to figure out which one is right, or the one that is made for you or made for the content that you're going to create, is very difficult with so many options. Now, I've worked with Zoom products, I've worked with Tascam, I've worked with a bunch of different audio devices from different brands. But the thing is, reliability. That's a big thing when it comes to working in this field, and especially if it's something you're getting paid for, you really need reliability. And for me, I've landed on Zoom products. Just like if you watch videos of mine in the past, I like Elgato products because they're reliable and you know what you're going to get out of them. Plus, they help you out on the back end if there's any issues. They help you out and just give you good customer service as opposed to some other companies that you might not even be able to contact. Zoom is another one of those companies, and I've used their products for probably the better part of the last 5-6 years. And my first audio recorder that I had was an H5. I still have it. Probably going to sell it sometime soon, but I still have it right now. And for good reason. We're going to see if a field recorder is better or just a different product than a handy recorder. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing the H5 and the F6 by Zoom and figuring out the differences, the similarities, which one's for you, which one you're ready for, and seeing just what goes into these audio recorders that make them unique. But before we get started, if you have any questions, comments, or anything whatsoever, please leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have about the Zoom products, the H5, F6, just about anything to do with audio recorders. I'll be happy to look up some stuff if I don't have it or if I haven't worked with it, and try to help you guys out. If you want to talk to me or ask me things more directly, I stream on this channel and on Twitch every Saturday afternoon around 4 or 5 o'clock, and I do dot-to-dot art for the first hour on this channel, and then I switch over to my Twitch channel where I play video games and just hang out with you guys. It's twitch.tv/ghettohappy. So give me a follow over there and you know when I go live. And of course, if you found this video helpful, entertaining, or anything whatsoever, please leave a like and consider subscribing. So the first thing we're going to get into is what is the difference between a handy recorder and a field recorder? Well, in simple terms, a handy recorder is for people just starting out, people who don't have as much experience with audio recording and content creation. A field recorder is more tailored to the professional setting where you are going out, working jobs, and getting paid for them. This is because a field recorder usually has a lot more features, a lot more things going on with it, and a handy recorder is more like plug and play, easy to use, and gives you that good enough feel that you can make things good quality without really breaking the bank. But as I said in the intro, these recorders and equipment in general are becoming more affordable now more than ever. So that line is being blurred of the professional versus indie. So just keep that in mind when you make these purchases and when you do research. Now, rolling off of that, let's talk about the price. And the H5 and the F6 there's a significant difference, but not a crazy difference that you just won't even acknowledge the F6 if your budget is at the H5. So the H5 is roughly around $300 US, and depending on the bundle you get, I look up on Amazon all the time, bundles and things like that, and the H5 comes with a bunch of stuff. If you were to just get the H5, I think you could get it around like $275, under $300, but it's roughly around $300. On the other hand, the F6 is $650, and that's just the recorder. If you want to add on the Bluetooth adapter, it is another $30. So under $700, but you get 4 more inputs and a ton of other features that really make it that much better. Is it $300 to $400 more better? We're going to figure that out in just a little bit and talk about the differences and see if you think it's that much better or worth that much more. Now, knowing those prices, let's talk about who these recorders are for, and I mentioned it before, but let's talk a little bit about it more in depth. So, the H5, from my experience, I used it when I first started doing things in the field and working on shoots and things like that. It really grew with me. It's one of those things that it won't stunt your growth in the sense that it won't hold you back, but you get to a point where if you do this consistently and you get good experience with it, you'll eventually outgrow it, and why I got the F6 afterwards. Now, talking about the F6, this thing is made for people who are serious, who really want to make an investment in their gear and make a jump forward in their content creation, especially if you're going out working on shoots and working as a audio recordist or just a regular content creator, working as commercials, TV, movies, all types of stuff. You can use this for that. Technically, you could use the H5, but you might be limited with things that you will run into. Okay, so now that we got all the philosophical and more the logistical stuff out of the way, let's get into the fun stuff and what you probably are here for, and that's the specs, comparing the specs from the H5 to the F6. So the first thing that stands out is the SD card capacity. The next thing that stands out, and the pretty obvious thing, is the 2 inputs compared to the 6 inputs, meaning the XLR inputs. And there are pros and cons on this. The H5 has a dual 1/4 inch and XLR port, being 2 of them, but the F6 just has XLR ports, but they are locking, meaning that if they get tugged on, they're not going to pop right out. Alright, so moving right along, we have an internal mic on the H5. We do not have an internal mic on the F6. Chances are it's not a deal breaker, but if it's something that you do use, maybe it's something to consider when making this purchase. But if you're using the recorder as your microphone, you're not ready for the F6. You're not interested in the F6 because it's not your focus, it's not your style. As far as the recording formats, so here are 2 more things that the Zoom F6 has that the H5 doesn't. It has Bluetooth adaptability with the Bluetooth adapter. It goes to a app that they have made by Zoom, and it's only available on iOS devices. If you haven't seen it, go check out my BTA1. That's always a tough one to remember. It's easy, but it's tough to remember. I don't know why. My BTA1 video where I talk about the Bluetooth adapter, how to set it up, and all the things that go along with it. Now, the common things with the sources of power are the USB and the AA batteries. Both can run on those, but the L series batteries can only be used on the F6. So keep that in mind when you're purchasing this. I love L series batteries because they're universal. You could use them on monitors, you could use them on lights, you could use them on the F6. So keep it in mind when you're buying this. The next thing I want to get into is the functionality of it, meaning while you're working with it and how you use it when you're actually working and using these devices. So the first thing I'm going to get into is handling. Is the H5 or the F6 better to handle? Well, on its own, the H5 is made for it. It's called a handy recorder because you can hold it with your hand while using it. Chances are you're going to have to strap it to something if you're doing both boom operating and holding it and working all together, but regardless, it's easier to handle the H5. On the other hand, the F6, you have to put it in a bag, or it has a clip or little rails for your belt. You could do that as well, but I suggest getting a bag because the bag is it's better. It's just one of those things that if you're going to actually go full-blown like into something, get the gear, get the accessories that are going to make your life easier, because you could have all the fancy gear and all the nice stuff, but if you don't have the accessories to optimize those pieces of gear, you're really wasting your time and your money. The next thing on functionality we're going to talk about is actually like using it, like adjusting gain and pressing buttons. The H5 has an upper hand because it's all faced there flat. The F6, on the other hand, has smaller buttons, smaller screen, not much smaller, but it sometimes can get annoying. Granted, I've said this in the past, the app is excellent, and you saw in my audio interface video for the F6, you can strap it to your arm like you could get a phone strap. Strap it to your arm, and you could adjust it like that, and it works flawlessly. I've never had a problem with it, and allegedly the 1.6 update helps with the connectivity of the Bluetooth adapter. I never have any problems with it, but if you have had problems with it, that 1.6 update will help. So this might not tie into this, and to be honest, it's one of those things that I have had discussions and disagreements with people in the comments. Some people I've disagreed with. The SD card. On the H5, it's much easier to pop in and out the SD cards right on the side and not a problem. The F6, on the other hand, is behind the L series battery, which I use pretty much exclusively. I did learn that you can transfer things via USB, but something else to consider is, what if they're not your SD cards? What if they're things that, what if there's just, you're on a shoot and you have to drop these SD cards with somebody? People are very specific in which SD card you use. So like, I've had times where I use one SD card on one day, and then they're like, yeah, use this other one because we're going to distinguish each one per day. Understandably so, people like to file things and organize things differently. So the in and out can be an issue, which gives an upper hand to the H5. But like I said, it's supposed to be more accessible to people. All right, so the next thing I'm going to get into is reliability. Both of these recorders are reliable as far as like a hardware and just working and never having a problem with it like crapping out on you. I've had my H5 for about 4 or 5 years. I've had the F6 for about a year now. Never had a problem. I turn it on and it works. No glitches, no problems. I'm sure there are people out there that have an issue with it and have had problems with it. With the line out, people have a lot of problems with the line out. But to be honest, you get a ground loop thrown in there and it sounds just fine. And chances are you really don't need to. If you have a clap sync or if you have a good crew that work together fine, you don't need it. And you don't need the time code at times. Yes, they can be used and they are useful when they're used properly. Now, continuing, one more thing on the reliability, I will give an upper hand to the F6 because you got 4 more inputs. It makes it a lot easier. Chances are you're not going to be using all 6 inputs simultaneously. It would be madness if you were a boom operator all in one and trying to get your work done working with 6 inputs. But if you need 3 or 4, if you like 2 labs and 2 mics possibly, you can't do that with the H5. You got basically a lav and a boom. That's all. So reliability, going to the F6 because of the extra features given to it. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna get into, is it worth it? Is the F6 worth the extra $350, $400? And the answer is yes. And I say that with a little side note, and I've said this before, I'm just gonna drill it home again. If you are ready, if you're going to utilize it, if you're going to be making the most out of this purchase and making sure that it's something that you're going to use, I don't want people buying this thing if they're just planning on using it for, I don't know, maybe YouTube videos. Do I need this to make YouTube videos? No, absolutely not. This is overkill. But I use it outside of this. I've paid for it in shoots. Just in the first 3 months before this whole just hellhole of a year came, I paid for it in shoots. Thankfully, which was nice, I worked hard and I paid it off right away just by working. Using this device as a job and as a recorder in my bag basically paid for itself. So if you are working and you are using it, it pays for it. Alright, so that is the H5 and the F6 field recorder, handy recorder by Zoom. Excellent options if you're going to be recording audio and using in your content. Just make sure you understand where you are and if it fits what you're doing. It's very crucial to making this decision, and the F6 is most certainly a better option, and it's a upgrade. It's just something you need to be ready for. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked that video, please hit the like button down below and consider subscribing for more videos like this and more videos in the future about tech, gear, tutorials. If you like those tutorials that I'm doing, let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about, especially with OBS, Adobe Premiere, anything, Affinity, whatever you want me to talk about, I can help you guys out. And as always, be safe, be kind. If you go out, please wear a mask, and I'll see you in the next video. Compared while streaming compared to others. Oh no! Evie, oh. EVY. EVY. EVY.